this is your first feature film as a director. So I'd love to hear about that experience. What convinced you to do it? And looking back on it, how did it go?
Well, I started as a storyboard artist, and that's what I was doing at Pixar when Sarah Smith, who is one half of our writing team and also directed the movie, she pitched me this story, and I was pretty hooked because it had that awesome kind of sense of a coming of age story, but also it really spoke to a contemporary world, looking at the issues that contemporary kids face. And I thought, wow, I want to be part of helping to tell that story. But the amazing thing about directing an animated feature is when we're storyboarding, we've got a sense of, the script and the shots that we want to do, but then there's so much more detail that follows on from that through animation, through layout, through rendering and lighting. And it really gave me a massive kick in the butt in terms of the workload and the challenge of it, but a real appreciation for the craft of animation and what we can do with it.
Yeah, I would love to hear also about, the inspirations for this. Do you guys have any personal experiences of being on your phone too much and stuff, like the metaphors that this movie is laying out about how, comparison is kind of the thief of joy that this movie seems to be telling us about social media and stuff.
Yes, definitely. We have that scene, which is also in the trailer, with Graham looking at his phone and telling Barney, like, get off your screens. Yeah. I've done that many of times with my own children, where they catch me doing that. So yes, I think that's one of the things which was just a common part of our story that felt right to talk about.
Yeah. What's the app you use the most on your phone?
Oh, wow.
I'm a bit of a Twitter addict, unfortunately, which I know it's not good for me. And quite often it's the first thing I'm looking at first thing in the morning. And really, the times when I've sort of just left the phone and just kind of appreciated the day and drunk a coffee, they always feel like the right way to start. Like, we try not to critique social media because there's amazing things to obviously to learn and to connect with. I love learning about screenwriting, and there's so much of that on Twitter, and I've learned a ton from that. But really what we're trying to say is separate your sense of self from that, right? And then it's about who are you in real life and your real life friendships, which are messy and complicated and beautiful. And it's about celebrating those as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I get that screen time notification. It's like, you were on your phone 6 hours a day this week. And I'm like, well, hold the phone. Literally, hold the phone. Yeah. This was Jack Dylan Grazer. He did this and Luca. I don't know which one he did first, but I'd love to hear about your experience of working with him. Did you guys have to teach him anything in the animated world about laying down voice work versus live action work? Or did it all just come naturally to him?
I think it came naturally to us. Did he come with us first?
He was with us first, yeah. We got him first, then Luca snagged him.
Yeah. But no, he really brought so much charm and heart to Barney. And we just were very fortunate that was already there. So it wasn't really us trying to coax him. It was more like, hey, let me try it this way. And it was like, oh, we welcome all of that.
Yeah, he's such a consummate pro. We didn't have to teach him anything really about performing for animation. And really, we just tried to capture that kind of his amazingly nuanced performances, because this is that coming of age story. And Barney is this he's a lonely kid trying to figure out who he is. And it needed that sensitivity. And we can't believe how beautifully it turned out.
Who really surprised you the most? Like, who is the actor that when you heard them in the booth, you were like, this is the character. I can't wait for people to see this.
Well, I've got to say that Olivia Colman, fresh off having won an Oscar for The Favourite, I think, only a few days later, she'd flown in, and then she was dancing around the big Bulgarian grandma in the studio and doing this accent for us, and like bringing so much energy and just comedy. She is a genius, and it's no surprise that it was going to be an amazing performance, but I think we were surprised she agreed to do it, and so we're really lucky.
You guys have a hell of a cast here. I love how there are like Marvel and Star Wars references sprinkled into the Bebots. Like some of them, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's different skins and they're fun little Easter eggs. I would love to hear how that kind of stuff comes to be, like, because this was originally like with Fox and then the deal happened. So those probably came in later in the game, I'm guessing. Like, what is the process like to try to get those sort of little references as a part of your story?
I think the thing is that we want to do was try to be as versatile as possible with the bots themselves and the users, because every kid has their own, likes about what they see themselves and personify. So I think that became a big influence. It's like, can we get these guys as well? Because we know that they like Star Wars, they like the Marvel stuff, can it? And it happened that way, but it was part of the story, true to character.
Yeah. I think, this film took such a massive roller coaster journey through the studio process. When it came into Disney's hands, we had every digit crossed. That they would give us permission. They would love our movie and give us permission to use Marvel and Star Wars characters. And it's fantastic that they did.
I love how they've allowed this and Free Guy to have some of that fun stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
If you had a Bebop, what would the skin be if you had to pick from like any franchise?
Ooh, I'm a big fan of the Iron Man skin. I just think it's the coolest. Oh yeah, little subliminal programming going on in the background there. But we have it hovering, on a jet outside the school in our movie, and I'm like, I want to be that kid that's got the Iron Man skin.
Yeah, for me it was Black Panther, which was amazing, and that we had that as well. So it would be great.
Yeah, I did. I think I'd go Iron Man right there with you. And speaking of Marvel, Octavio, I just got to ask, man. I know you're doing Spider-Verse 2 work. I'm sure this is something you can't talk too much about, but the first film was just so remarkable and incredible. How are you feeling about this second one? How do you think it's going to stack up? Any big surprises there for us?
It's just going to be epic. I mean, that's all. That's all I can say. That is it. That's all I can say. Sony will. Why are they watching?
You're killing it. It's going to be amazing.
I can't wait to see what you guys are cooking up over there. And so my last thing for you, if you both could do a Marvel, DC, Star Wars character, and whether it's animated, live action, do you have a favorite superhero who you think would be fun to work on?
Wow. I think I definitely am into the world of Doctor Strange. I just love that kind of dimensional element to it. I love what Scott Derrickson did. Actually, probably he should carry on and do more. But that's the one that appeals to me.
It's the visuals.
Yeah.
That's wow. I see where you're going with this.
Oh, now he's really thinking about
it. I guess I would do some kind of spin-off. There's I believe a Boricua, which is a girl comic series, and so I would love to do a movie about that specifically in the New York, city streets. So that is my thing.
I love it. We'll start the campaign, man. I love it.
Oh my gosh.
I want to start at the beginning. I would love to hear you guys talk about, the inspiration for Ron's Gone Wrong, because I know this is a story that kind of says maybe we are spending a bit too much time on our phones, but also kind of says some good could come of the things that we get to do with that technology too. I'd love to hear about where that came from.
Well, as you can hear when you say it, we're talking to ourselves as anxious parents right there, going like, you're on your screen too much time, but hang on a minute, because they are making friends as well. So honestly, it really literally is that, wanting to make a movie for your own kid, for, each other's kids we know, parents we know that are struggling with this whole new world, this like digital playground that our kids are playing in, and we don't really understand what the rules should be. And it seemed like a super important thing, and it touches on the most important thing that kids are dealing with, which is the life of friendship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have you ever had an experience on like social media or in encounter that has either influenced the decision you make just in life or creatively in one of your films?
I once had an anonymous thing said on a social media, I don't know, 15 years ago. And it was really horrible to have that experience. And it's amazing how that one thing by somebody you have no idea who they are, have they even ever met you, can really affect your feeling. And it doesn't matter, it's a bit like reviews, right? How many great ones there are. One person says a thing and you're wondering who is anonymous, and we wanted to put that in this movie actually, because it's such a powerful thing, the idea that there are people out there posting comments about each other. It's a difficult thing to deal with, I think.
It's funny. I mean, my more thing is more just that I have to literally on Twitter, on my phone, I've had to take it off my phone, then I put it back on, and then I've had to teach my phone to forget the password, so I can't just blindly go into Twitter and because I'm telling my daughter, like, get off. She's into this thing called Lore Olympus, and she just scrolls these comic for hours. And I get off that and think, well, you get off Twitter. It's just this thing where you go, we've got to try and figure this out somehow.
Yeah, I'm actually like, I don't do any of it because I know I would get really addicted and really sort of worried about it.
I know.
You're doing it right, because I'll tell you get 100 nice comments and it's the one negative one.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
When you put your head on the pillow, you're like, but why? Why did they say that? There's a lot of comparisons you can make for this movie, and it is its own unique thing, but it also seems to have kind of tones of maybe like E.T. influencing it in a way and stuff like that. I love that. I would love to hear you talk about, were there any films that you looked at and you were like, we want to capture that tone, while also, of course, putting your own stamp on it?
Yeah, E.T. was definitely an influence. I think there are certain big stories, types of stories that really appeal to kids. The idea that you're magic, the idea that, that you're somehow special, the idea of having a special pet, How to Train Your Dragon is that. And in a way, Ron's Gone Wrong is that. E.T. is that as well. It's one of those powerful fantasies that kids have. And so, there is an echo of E.T. and the sense of them kind of escaping into this big sort of wild setting where they have fun together. Definitely important. And I watched E.T. right near the end of the movie and I counted the number of seconds. There was like a shot on Elliot's face as he's saying goodbye. And I was like, we need to go back into our movie and make longer shots on Barney because, I
think it influenced as well. Like, we grew up on E.T. and also in the look of the world, even because we, early on, we felt very strongly that we wanted it not to be in the future, not some theoretical world in which these things come along. And so that meant we wanted to limit the Bebop and make sure they're not too fanciful or imaginary, but also just the look of where Barney lived, because that kind of whole, I live in the States, but I'm a sucker for that American suburban look that I just think it just looks idyllic.
Love it. You two worked together 10 years ago on Arthur Christmas. I'd love to hear about, how much does that help you kind of, now that you've done one together, to come back together on another film? Is that bond and that chemistry already there? Is it like doing something brand new?
Well, we've actually been working together for 30 years. Our very first original thing that both of us did on radio was working together, and we did TV stuff together and so on, but not always as co-writers. And so we just have an enormous legacy of stuff to draw on. But we don't have to be nice to each other. That's one of the main things.
We stopped that about 18 years ago, I think.
That saves so much time.
Yeah,
we get so much more done now. In fact, when Pete is nice to me and he sends me a nice email or something, I feel really insecure and worried that something's gone wrong.
I know. I annoy Sarah by sending her text with exclamation marks at the end. Nice to hear from you, Sarah! Exclamation marks. What are you doing?
Will you stop that?
Actually, it's quite Ron's voice. That kind of, hey, how can I help? So,
we also have just learned so much, I think, about movies and stories and so on. But you're always discovering something new when you write a new story. So I learned a lot on directing my first animated film about also what kids enjoy. That you need all of those complexity, all of those jokes, but you also just want some of the physical comedy, etc. of animation. And that's why Ron was such a great character, because literally the point of him was he can't go up and down stairs. So I knew that we could bring that comedy to it as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you're not close friends until you're throwing burns at each other, right? Until you're comfortable throwing a couple really honest comments,
Oh man, we just got so far past that and into
we're also giant anime. We're also giant Pixar and Studio Ghibli nerds, whatever like that. And when I work on slightly more adult fare on my other side, that I get a hard time. Like, oh, you're talking about cartoons again. I think it's animation, and we both just love it.
And we also both had kids around the same sort of time, and so we both experienced that thing of being parents. So there's a lot to draw on.
Wow. Well, Peter, I would love to hear, because you're such a fantastic caster. You had Olivia Colman come into the booth right after winning an Oscar. Did you write any of these characters with voices in your head saying, it has to be this person, or does that kind of come later and then you start?
No, it's just more like
Arthur Christmas, actually. We did on Arthur Christmas because it was supposed to be like British royalty. But on this one.
No. It was much more like you have an idea. Like Donka, the grandmother character, was like, even though she's Bulgarian, she was slightly based on my own grandmother from Liverpool, who used to give me and my brother raw pork sausages to eat. And like my dad would say, and she'd say, it puts hairs on their chest. And it didn't. Yeah, but then you hear that Olivia Colman will do it, and you go, "Oh my God, Olivia Colman!" And like Zach Galifianakis as Ron, you know.
Olivia changed it a lot because I did all the voice for Donka in the early stages when we were just doing scratch recordings, and I did her a lot fiercer. And when Olivia came in, she was much sweeter, and it turns out it was lots better than me for some reason.
And as a big Marvel fan, I'd love to hear about how that when the B-bots get skins in Ron's Gone Wrong, you have several that are Marvel characters, you have Star Wars characters. How does that come to be? Is that a challenging task to go up to Disney and say, "Hey, we want to incorporate this thing you guys have"?
They just let you do it. They just let you. I'm joking. They don't let you do it. No, I know.
It was a kind of brilliant kind of accident of the movie ending up with Disney, because originally the movie was at Fox. You know, I have to tell you, when we were pitching the movie, we had all different versions of what we would show. Look at what a Bebop can do, and we would use the skins of whatever studio we were pitching to. So different characters that it could be.
And then they had to go.
But we always had this joke, this Darth Vader bot who would say, "Let us cross to the dark side," which for some reason we were so keen to hang on to our Darth Vader joke. So when Disney then acquired Fox, we were like, let's go ask them. And they were great. They gave us the right to use lots of those characters.
Yeah. I love that. If it had gone to Paramount, we would have had Terminator in there. If it, you know what I mean?
No, we're just trying to please.
I love it. Marvel, I'm a huge Marvel fan. They just recently dipped their toes in animation with this What If series, which was a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but I would love to hear, are you guys superhero fans at all? Have you ever flirted with the idea or had a character that you think would be a lot of fun to get to play with?
Yeah, well, we are thinking about something at the moment, which is our idea of a sort of an animated group that is kind of influenced by those sort of Marvel movies. But of course, in our version, they're massive losers.
Well, this is it. I had this idea once about a kid in a superhero movie where literally everyone else is a superhero except for this one person who's got no powers, you know, and then he becomes the hero. But I love them. I love them. I've really, ever since seeing Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, I was like,
that's the kind of model for the thing that we're writing, but funny with animals in anyway, that's a whole new thing.
That's
I can't wait to see what Locksmith's next project is. And listen, thank you both so much for the time. I can't wait for everybody to get to see Ron's Gone Wrong.